When we see Justin Bieber doting on his mini-me son Jack in beautiful new photos taken inside his stunning $258 million Los Angeles home, it reminds us how far he has come from a teenager uploading videos on YouTube to one of the biggest pop stars in the world, and now a family man whose life is celebrated by millions around the globe. And it is not just the story of his music or his fame, but of growth challenges, resilience, and the beauty of sharing love with family. And that is the magical thing about celebrities. They may shine under the spotlight, but at their core, they are human beings with journeys that inspire us to chase dreams, push through hard times, and embrace the best parts of life. And when we reflect on Justin's career, we remember the early days of Baby and Never Say, never the screaming fans outside arenas, the sold-out tours, and the endless headlines. But what has always touched fans most deeply is his ability to be vulnerable, to talk openly about struggles, and to keep returning to music with renewed energy. And then we shift to another story like Selena Gomez, who once shared stages and a relationship with Justin, yet built her own powerful career as a singer, actress, and entrepreneur, while also becoming a leading advocate for mental health through her Rare Impact Fund. And her journey reminds us that fame is not only about red carpets, but also about using influence to create positive change in the world. And then we move to someone like Taylor Swift, whose career has spanned country pop and beyond, with albums that have defined eras, and who has become a voice for artists, rights for fans, and for resilience, after very public challenges. And when she stands on stage during the Eras tour, filling stadiums night after night, she shows the world that reinvention and hard work can turn any setback into a comeback. And then from the music world, we glide to Hollywood, where actors like Blake Lively continue to shine. She who first captured hearts as Serena van der Woodsen on Gossip Girl, and has since evolved into a celebrated actress, entrepreneur, and philanthropist. And when she appears alongside her husband Ryan Reynolds in playful interviews, fans feel not only entertained, but also inspired by their warmth and humor. And then we think about Zendaya, who began as a Disney Channel star and has grown into an Emmy-winning actress and a fashion icon, collaborating with the biggest brands while always speaking about authenticity, representation, and self-love. And then her co-star, Timothée Chalamet, whose performances in Call Me By Your Name, Done, and other films show a depth and artistry that make him one of the brightest stars of his generation. And together, Zendaya and Timothée embody the hope and brilliance of the future of Hollywood. And then we look at global icons like Rihanna, who built an empire not only through music, but also through her Fenty brand, which has redefined beauty standards worldwide with inclusivity and representation. And when she performed at the Super Bowl halftime show while pregnant, she reminded the world that strength and artistry can take many forms. And then we look at Beyoncé, who has for decades inspired fans with her voice, her performances, and her dedication to perfection, while also creating space for conversations around Black excellence, women's empowerment, and creativity. And then we think of athletes like Serena Williams, who redefined what it means to be a champion, both on and off the tennis court, balancing motherhood, entrepreneurship, and advocacy, while inspiring generations to believe in their strength. And then we flow into the story of Michael B. Jordan, whose journey from television roles to becoming one of Hollywood's leading men in films like Creed and Black Panther reflects not only talent, but also vision and commitment to opening doors for others through his production company. And then we think about Bruno Mars, who has brought joy around the world with timeless hits blending funk, soul, and pop, while his collaborations with Anderson .Paak as Silk Sonic show the beauty of artists uniting to create something magical. And then we remember that celebrities are more than performers. They are cultural leaders like Leonardo DiCaprio, who has used his platform for decades to raise awareness about climate change while continuing to deliver some of the greatest performances of his generation. And then there is Lady Gaga, who went from shocking stages with bold costumes to earning Academy Awards while never abandoning her message of kindness, self-expression, and compassion through her Born This Way Foundation. And then as we move further into the fascinating lives of celebrities, we think of Harry Styles, whose journey from One Direction to solo superstardom has been filled with reinvention and bold choices in both music and fashion. He has become a symbol of freedom, self-expression, and kindness, and his concerts feel more like safe spaces where fans come together to celebrate individuality. And then there is Billie Eilish, who at such a young age captured the world with her haunting voice and unique style, and whose honesty about mental health and environmental issues has made her a role model for a new generation, proving that authenticity will always shine brighter than perfection. And then we look at Shawn Mendes, whose rise from Vine videos to global tours demonstrates how new platforms are creating opportunities for artists to connect with millions, and his vulnerability in opening up about anxiety has allowed fans to see him not just as a superstar, but as a human being they can relate to. And then we think about Camila Cabello, whose music and advocacy for self-love and kindness resonate deeply and together. Sean and Camila reminded fans that celebrity relationships can reflect both love and growth, even when they come to an end. And then looking at the acting world once more, we are reminded of Tom Holland, who brought Spider-Man to life with charm, humor, and heart, and who off-screen shows humility, generosity, and a commitment to inspiring young fans. And his relationship with Zendaya became a cultural phenomenon because it represented two stars at the top of their game, supporting one another with genuine care. And then we turn to Marvel icons like Chadwick Boseman, whose role as Black Panther created a movement, and whose real-life battle with illness showed unimaginable courage and grace, leaving a legacy that transcends film and continues to inspire millions worldwide. And then we see how celebrities like Lupita Nyong'o use that platform to highlight diversity, representation, and empowerment, proving that Hollywood is changing for the better. And then we think of Robert Downey Jr., whose comeback from personal struggles to become the face of the Marvel Cinematic Universe remains one of the greatest redemption stories in Hollywood history, and his journey shows fans that it is never too late to turn your life around and achieve greatness. And then we shift to sports, where LeBron James not only dominates the basketball court, but has also built schools, empowered communities, and become an example of leadership beyond athletics. And then we reflect on Kobe Bryant, whose legacy of excellence, mentorship, and dedication to family continues to inspire and remind us that true greatness is not only about trophies, but also about the impact you leave on others. And then we think about Naomi Osaka, whose courage to prioritize her mental health on the world stage redefined what it means to be an athlete and a role model, and her influence has extended far beyond tennis courts, sparking conversations that will help generations to come. And then Serena Williams, again reminding the world that strength, grace, and resilience can exist together, has set a standard for all athletes, showing that success is built on both talent and relentless effort. And then we think about cultural icons like Jennifer Lopez, whose decades-long career across music, film, and fashion continues to evolve with each era, reminding fans that reinvention is a superpower. And her halftime show with Shakira proved that Latin artists hold a powerful place on the global stage. And then we reflect on Shakira herself, who not only captivates audiences with her artistry, but also uplifts communities through her education initiatives in Colombia, showing that stars can use their platforms to create real, tangible change. And then we think about Adele, whose voice has become the soundtrack to so many lives, and whose authenticity, whether joking on stage or sharing stories of heartbreak, resonates with fans deeply, because she reminds us that even superstars face the same emotions we all do. And then we look at Ed Sheeran, whose journey from busking on the streets to selling out stadiums proves that passion and persistence can take you anywhere, and his humility and connection to fans make his story one of the most relatable in modern music. And then we think about legends like Elton John, whose decades of music combined with his advocacy for HIV/AIDS awareness have saved lives and inspired hope. And then Paul McCartney, whose contributions to music history with the Beatles and beyond remain timeless, and whose presence reminds us that creativity can shape generations. And then we look at modern icons like Beyoncé again, whose visual albums and groundbreaking tours redefine what it means to be an entertainer, and who has inspired countless women and men to embrace their power and stand tall in their identities. And then Rihanna, once again reminding us that creativity is limitless, has become one of the most successful entrepreneurs of our time, with Fenty changing the beauty industry forever. And then we think of Kim Kardashian, who despite controversies has used her platform to advocate for criminal justice reform, proving that influence, when directed toward justice, can bring about real change. And then we see Kylie Jenner, who built a beauty empire at such a young age, showing that social media combined with vision can transform into a billion-dollar brand. And then Kendall Jenner, whose presence in high fashion has made her one of the top models in the world, blending celebrity culture with the elite fashion industry. And then we reflect on Gigi Hadid and Bella Hadid, whose modeling careers, alongside their openness about personal struggles and triumphs, have made them relatable icons to millions. And then Naomi Campbell, whose decades of groundbreaking work paved the way for diversity in fashion and who continues to inspire through philanthropy and mentorship. And then as we dive deeper into the fascinating universe of stars, we cannot forget someone like Oprah Winfrey, who rose from humble beginnings to become not only a media mogul, but also one of the most influential women in the world. Her story is one of perseverance, vision, and the belief that storytelling can heal and empower, and her philanthropic work has touched millions, especially through education and opportunities for young girls around the globe. And then we move to Ellen DeGeneres, whose career as a comedian and talk show host broke barriers for representation and brought laughter to millions every day, while also reminding fans about kindness and positivity. And then we consider someone like Ellen Page, now known as Elliot. Page, whose courage in sharing their truth with the world became a moment of hope for countless fans struggling with identity and acceptance, and then shifting again to the silver screen. We celebrate Sandra Bullock, whose roles from romantic comedies to Oscar-winning performances have entertained generations, while her generosity behind the scenes supporting families in need has shown that her heart is as big as her talent. And then we look at Julia Roberts, whose radiant smile became a hallmark of Hollywood, but whose decades of sustained success are a testament to resilience, professionalism, and genuine love for the craft of acting. And then we think about Meryl Streep, who remains one of the greatest actresses of all time, admired for her talent, her grace, and her ability to transform into any character she plays, while also speaking boldly on issues of equality in art. And then we remember Robin Williams, whose humor and heart touched millions across generations, from Mrs. Doubtfire to Good Will Hunting. His ability to make people laugh and cry remains one of Hollywood's most treasured legacies. And then we reflect on Will Smith, whose decades-long career in music, film, and television has been filled with highs and lows, but whose charisma and creativity have left a lasting mark on the industry, while his family, including Jada Pinkett Smith, Jaden Smith, and Willow Smith, have each contributed to culture in their own ways, through art, activism, and individuality. And then we turn to someone like Denzel Washington, whose performances exude strength, wisdom, and depth, and whose off-screen mentorship and philanthropy continue to inspire young actors to pursue their dreams with discipline and dignity. And then we look at Morgan Freeman, whose iconic voice and timeless performances have made him a guiding presence in Hollywood for decades, and who uses his influence to support education and equality. And then we celebrate Jamie Foxx, whose talents in comedy, music, and film demonstrate the power of versatility, and who has become a beloved figure both on stage and screen. And then we think of Viola Davis, whose career and advocacy highlight the importance of representation and storytelling for marginalized voices. Her journey from poverty to Academy award-winning actress, showing that determination and authenticity can break every barrier. And then we reflect on Lupita Nyong'o, whose Oscar-winning performance in 12 Years a Slave marked the beginning of a career dedicated not only to artistry, but also to advocacy for diversity and self-love, inspiring countless young fans. And then we move into the global music world again with Blackpink, whose rise from South Korea to global stages has shown the incredible reach of Kpop, their performances blending artistry, precision, and passion, while their individual personalities connect deeply with fans worldwide. And then BTS, whose influence goes far beyond music as they became ambassadors of self-love, kindness, and global unity, inspiring armies of fans everywhere to find confidence and hope in their own stories. And then we think about Twice and other groups who continue to spread joy, showing how music transcends language and culture. And then we look at Maluma and Bad Bunny, whose impact on Latin music has transformed global charts, while their bold artistry and authenticity have inspired fans to embrace individuality and cultural pride. And then we consider Shakira again, whose philanthropic efforts have changed countless lives in Colombia, proving that music and service together can create lasting legacies. And then we look at J Balvin, whose music continues to break boundaries, while his openness about mental health encourages fans to prioritize well-being and self-compassion. And then we turn back to Hollywood with actors like Brad Pitt, whose decades-long career has made him one of the most recognizable figures in the world, and whose humanitarian work, especially with global relief efforts, has made a lasting difference. And then we think of Angelina Jolie, who has combined her powerful film career with her humanitarian advocacy, serving as a UN special envoy and supporting refugee communities worldwide. And her ability to balance fame with service has made her one of the most respected voices on the planet. And then we move to George Clooney, whose charm and artistry are matched by his dedication to humanitarian causes and philanthropy, and whose partnership with Amal Clooney, a leading human rights lawyer, has become a beacon of influence for combining celebrity with justice and global awareness. And then we look at Matt Damon, whose career choices and activism, especially in water initiatives, remind us that celebrities can leverage their fame to make the world a better place. And then Ben Affleck, whose journey through highs and lows ultimately reflects resilience and creativity, and whose recent personal happiness has reminded fans that growth and renewal are always possible. And then we reflect on Jennifer Garner, whose career in film combined with her down-to-earth presence and charitable work, especially in education, has made her one of Hollywood's most beloved figures. And then we consider Reese Witherspoon, whose career reinvention as an actress, producer, and entrepreneur has amplified women's voices in storytelling through her company, Hello Sunshine, leaving an indelible mark on Hollywood. And then as we continue to celebrate the brilliance of celebrities who shape culture, we look at Natalie Portman, whose career began as a child star and has grown into one of the most respected in Hollywood. Her ability to balance artistry, intelligence, and activism sets her apart as a role model, and her advocacy for animal rights and education shows how she uses her influence for causes greater than herself. And then we reflect on Keira Knightley, whose performances from Pirates of the Caribbean to period dramas have made her a global star, while her thoughtful presence in interviews reminds fans that humility and authenticity can live alongside fame. And then we look at Anne Hathaway, whose versatility across genres from musicals to dramas has made her beloved, while her advocacy for gender equality and family rights shows her heart for social change. And then we consider Hugh Jackman, whose role as Wolverine defined an era of superhero films, but whose passion for theater, philanthropy, and family makes him a shining example of balance between career and personal values. And then we turn to Ryan Gosling, whose performances from The Notebook to La La Land to Barbie demonstrate range and charm, while his humility off-screen and dedication to family life make fans adore him even more. And then we reflect on Emma Stone, who has won Oscars for her artistry, but continues to carry herself with kindness and relatability. Her journey from comedic roles to dramatic masterpieces showing the world that talent and perseverance are unstoppable together. And then we celebrate Margot Robbie, who has become one of the most powerful figures in Hollywood, not only for her on-screen talent, but for her role as a producer championing diverse stories. And when Barbie became a cultural moment, her influence grew even stronger, inspiring young people to embrace both femininity and power. And then we think about Florence Pugh, whose honesty, her powerful performances, and her ability to connect with fans make her one of the most promising stars of her generation, and her resilience in dealing with fame while staying true to herself is a story that resonates deeply. And then we look at Simone Biles, whose gymnastics career has made her the greatest of all time, but whose courage to prioritize mental health during the Olympics changed global conversations about what it means to be an athlete and a role model. And then we reflect on Michael Phelps, whose swimming achievements made him a legend, but whose openness about struggles with mental health has inspired millions to seek help and embrace healing. And then we look at Cristiano Ronaldo, whose career has redefined soccer with unparalleled dedication, while his philanthropy and family life show another dimension of his story. And then Lionel Messi, whose humble beginnings in Argentina to world champion status inspired generations of young athletes worldwide, and whose loyalty and humility remain key to his legacy. And then we think of David Beckham, whose career in soccer combined with his ventures in fashion and philanthropy made him a global icon, while his enduring marriage with Victoria Beckham shows the power of partnership in the spotlight. And then we move to Victoria herself, whose transformation from pop superstar with the Spice Girls to respected fashion designer is one of the most inspiring reinventions in modern celebrity culture. And then we consider Kelly Clarkson, whose journey from winning American Idol to becoming a powerhouse vocalist and television personality has made her one of the most relatable and enduring stars of our time. And her openness about personal struggles connects her to fans in a way that feels genuine and comforting. And then we think about Carrie Underwood, whose country music success, her resilience, and her continued authenticity make her a beloved figure across the world. And then we shift to Dolly Parton, whose decades of hits, her business ventures, and her philanthropy especially. Her imagination library that gives free books to children have made her one of the most adored icons in history. And then we celebrate Barbra Streisand, whose artistry across music and film combined with her philanthropic contributions have left an enduring impact. And then Cher, whose reinventions across decades from music to film to advocacy show that fearlessness creates timeless influence. And then we think about Madonna, whose career has redefined pop music, pushing boundaries and inspiring countless artists to embrace boldness, creativity, and self-expression. And then we celebrate Whitney Houston, whose voice remains one of the most powerful in music history, and whose legacy continues to inspire young singers everywhere. And then Mariah Carey, whose unmatched vocal range and holiday anthems have made her a living legend with an enduring connection to fans worldwide. And then Celine Dion, whose resilience in personal life combined with her timeless music has made her a global treasure whose legacy continues to inspire courage and hope. And then we reflect on Celeste's younger artists like Olivia Rodrigo, whose rise from Disney star to chart-topping singer-songwriter with raw emotional music reminds fans of Taylor Swift's early days and shows how authenticity resonates deeply in every generation. And then we think of Sabrina Carpenter, whose music, acting, and fashion sense have won her a rapidly growing fan base, proving that the next wave of stars are ready to shine brightly. And then we look at Doja Cat, whose artistry, creativity, and fearless experimentation in music and fashion continue to push boundaries, while her playful and real personality keep her deeply connected to fans. And then we reflect on Nicki Minaj, whose impact on hip-hop cannot be overstated, as she has paved the way for countless female rappers while building one of the most loyal fan bases in the world. And then Cardi B, whose rise from social media personality to Grammy-winning artist reflects resilience, determination, and authenticity, reminding us that anyone with passion and vision can achieve greatness. And then we celebrate Megan Thee Stallion, whose courage to rise above personal challenges while continuing to create empowering music has made her one of the most influential voices of her generation, inspiring fans, especially women, to embrace confidence and self-worth. And then we look at Billie Eilish, who has taken the music industry by storm with her unique style, voice, and artistry, while remaining authentic to who she is, and using her platform to talk openly about mental health, climate change, and individuality, making her a role model for millions. And then we think about Phineas, her brother and collaborator, whose behind-the-scenes brilliance in songwriting and production has helped shape the sound of modern pop music, while also launching his own successful career. And then we reflect on Shawn Mendes, whose rise from Vine star to international superstar shows the power of perseverance, talent, and relatability, and whose openness about anxiety has helped destigmatize conversations around mental health. And then we look at Camila Cabello, whose music blends cultures and emotions in a way that resonates worldwide, while her charity work and activism highlight her dedication to making a difference. And then we consider Selena Gomez, whose journey from Disney star to music icon to businesswoman with rare beauty makes her one of the most inspiring celebrities. Her honesty about health struggles and her passion for giving back remind fans that even in stardom, vulnerability can be powerful and beautiful. And then we reflect on Demi Lovato, whose resilience through personal struggles and her bold, unapologetic artistry continue to inspire millions, showing that recovery, authenticity, and growth are possible. And then we think about Ariana Grande, whose powerful voice and heartfelt lyrics have earned her a place among music's elite, while her ability to turn grief and challenges into strength has made her a symbol of perseverance and grace. And then we look at Miley Cyrus, whose transformation from Disney sweetheart to boundary-pushing artist reflects her fearless creativity, and her honesty about self-discovery resonates deeply with fans. And then we move to Kylie Jenner, whose influence in beauty, fashion, and social media is undeniable as the founder of Kylie Cosmetics. She became one of the youngest billionaires, showcasing the power of entrepreneurship and branding. And then we look at Kendall Jenner, whose modeling career has taken her to the world's biggest fashion stages and whose calm, grounded energy offers balance in a family constantly in the spotlight. And then we think of Kim Kardashian, whose transformation from reality star to business mogul, philanthropist, and aspiring lawyer is one of the most fascinating stories in pop culture, showing that reinvention and determination can reshape an entire career. And then we reflect on Khloe Kardashian, whose openness about personal challenges, health, fitness, and self-love makes her relatable and admired by many. And then Kourtney Kardashian, whose authenticity and emphasis on family wellness and balance has made her a role model for those seeking simplicity in a chaotic world. And then we celebrate Kris Jenner, the matriarch who built an empire by supporting her children and mastering the art of branding, proving that vision and strategy can create lasting legacies. And then we move to Paris Hilton, whose early fame defined an era of celebrity culture, but who later reinvented herself as a businesswoman, DJ, and advocate for change, showing that there is always more to a star than the media's first impression. And then we reflect on Nicole Kidman, whose timeless performances across decades, combined with her humanitarian work, make her one of the most respected figures in entertainment. And then Keith Urban, her husband, whose music career in country has inspired millions, while their partnership shows how love and support can thrive in the spotlight. And then we look at Tom Cruise, whose decades-long career filled with blockbusters and iconic roles has made him one of Hollywood's most enduring stars, while his commitment to doing his own stunts reflects his dedication to craft. And then we think of Will Smith, whose career has spanned rap television and blockbuster films, while his journey through challenges and comebacks continues to evolve, reminding us that growth is lifelong. And then we reflect on Jada Pinkett Smith, whose career and candid conversations have inspired many, and whose openness about personal growth highlights the importance of transparency and healing. And then we look at Jennifer Aniston, whose role in Friends cemented her as an icon, but whose continued success in film, television, and business proves that talent and grace never fade. And then we celebrate Courtney Cox, whose performances and relatable personality made her beloved across generations. And then Lisa Kudrow, whose comedic brilliance and humility make her unforgettable. And then Matt LeBlanc and David Schwimmer and Matthew Perry, whose legacy from Friends continues to bring joy to millions across the globe. And then we think about Sandra Bullock, whose balance of comedy, drama, and humanitarian work has made her one of the most loved stars in Hollywood. And then we reflect on Julia Roberts, whose smile and talent captured hearts for decades, while her grounded nature makes her relatable and admired. And then we look at Reese Witherspoon, whose journey from actress to powerhouse producer with projects like Big Little Lies shows how women can take charge of storytelling in Hollywood. And then we think about Nicole Scherzinger, whose voice, stage presence, and resilience continue to inspire fans. And then Leona Lewis, whose talent and philanthropy remind us of the power of using one's platform for good. And then Jennifer Lopez, whose multi-hyphenate career in music, acting, fashion, and business is nothing short of legendary. Her energy, drive, and ability to constantly reinvent herself make her one of the greatest role models for ambition and self-belief. Stay tuned, like, and subscribe for more uplifting, positive, and entertaining celebrity stories that inspire us all.